Welcome to Hindsight, the podcast, where bold stories and honest reflections meet real growth. I'm Lee Jones, your host, and every week I sit down with incredible people who turn life's turning points into powerful transformations. And if you're navigating change or chasing purpose, then you're in the right place.
When you look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it. In hindsight, yesterday and your tomorrow. In hindsight, is so much clearer now.
What happens when we challenge centuries-old narratives and give women their rightful place in epic tales of heroism? Peter Gunn, a U.S. Air Force veteran, NDE survivor, and the creator of the Unique Style LLP, linked lyrical poetry, has reshaped the heroic journey in his work, The Amazons. In this episode, Peter explores, or we hope, I'm going to try to get Peter to explore, often overlooked role of feminine in epic literature, blending the power of both the masculine and feminine in the inspiring narrative. Good morning, Peter. How you doing today, sir?
Good morning. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I was just mentioning earlier, it's a little chilly here, so I got the long sleeve shirt on. You got your guns out, representative of Peter Gunn, right? I love it.
I like to stay in shape. That's all I have to say. Yeah.
I did my, I'll tell you what, I'm in Southern California, and I go out and I do my push-ups every morning when I walk the dog. And today I had my sweatshirt on. I had the gloves on for the ground because it was cold. The hoodie, it was the thing.
I've been walking into a gym since I was 16 years old. So I fell in love with it and I never stopped, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not start that early. But that's good stuff, man. I know I did, we both share the military experience. So, what I lacked in love, I gained while I was in the military. So you do get a fond appreciation for the workouts.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It just, gets the mind right. So, Peter, this is Hindsight Podcast, right? But right now, on this particular episode, I want to start off with the now, where we are right now. And your work, The Amazons, challenges traditional narratives where feminine is often sidelined. So what was the moment you realized that this discrepancy, and how did it fuel your writing? Like, what made you propel? And I know we see like Wonder Woman, and honestly, there's been a big push, if anyone's paying attention to Hollywood lately, where you see a lot of strong women leads. But what fueled that for you?
Well, it wasn't just one thing, but I do remember when I was in the military, working late one night, it was pouring rain out, and there was a female maintainer there. I worked in maintenance, so I fix fighter jets for a living. Okay. And she was pushing in her box in the Terminator tools. She was soaked, soaking wet, and she looked up at me and, face all dirty. And she said, I would have to work 3 times as hard to get the same amount of credit. And that stuck with me. This is the thought of that. And then, it never left me. I had my daughter, and I wanted to enroll her into the poetry that I love, the classics. At least you'll have some exposure. Realize that they're there, like in the Iliad, the Odyssey. Beowulf, Dante's Inferno. When you walk into the poetry section, they're always going to be there. Any library, any bookstore, they run out, they're going to order more. But there's nothing really representing the feminine in the whole hero's journey epic poetry genre. And I'm like, well, why hasn't anyone done anything about that? Because, you have love poetry, and there's plenty of that for, women to peruse in the bookstore and library. And there's plenty of great poems written by very talented women. But as far as epic poetry, the hero's journey, there's nothing there that represents women in a positive light. Look at like Beowulf. I believe the female or the hero, there wasn't no heroine. She was a demon, represented as a demon. Iliad, the Odyssey, females, they had small roles, but not much to really grow from and emulate as a young growing female needs to. She needs a superhero like Superman, but someone on the same grounds. And that's what I aspire to do with the Amazons, not only fill in that gap, but then give them someone they could look up to, like Superman, but perhaps better. Someone that
Yeah.
could, kick the crap out of Superman if needed.
I know, and man, if you, I did not know until recent freaking Marvel films or DC films. I apologize, DC films, that Wonder Woman was as bad. I won't. I'll say it, badass as she was. I didn't know
Hmm.
she was
Yeah.
that
Yep.
the one. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that is pretty good. So you said your daughter, you kind of are writing these for your daughter to have
Yes.
some
Yep.
inspiration and something to look up to. How old
Hmm.
is your daughter, if you don't mind me asking?
She is 14 right now.
Does she help you with some of the storylines or any of the work in that project?
Well, LLP is in its own a very uh, uh, should we say time-consuming process. So the time I have with my daughter, I try to have fun with her, play with her, and do all the stuff a father wants to do with their kids. And as
Yeah.
far as the writing goes, I do that on my own. But although she is very much getting into art, so she can help me on the art front. Later in
Mm,
the future, perhaps she's getting really good. Yeah,
yeah. Okay. So let's talk about, what is it? LLEP? LLP?
LLP. Yes,
Yeah, let's
yeah.
talk about what's LLP and how
Well, when I
does.
first thought about getting into the whole epic poetry thing, I sat down and I looked at,
Mm,
Homer's Iliad and all the way it was written. And I basically studied every way every poet has written. I studied their styles, their metrics, their pentameter, the rhyming scheme and everything like that. And it's great. It makes for some great
wow.
reading. It's like, you read something like, wow. I always loved like Edgar Allan Poe's the Raven. It's
Mhm.
perfect. You got the rhyming, you got the story, but I know there are a lot of people that love that. But what if he had taken the time to expand on that, to make a whole
Yeah.
novel? I mean, we don't know about the characters; they just come in halfway, and why is the Raven there? What if Edgar Allan Poe had done the same thing, kept the same metrics, the rhyming scheme, and made a whole novel out of it?
Mm.
Yeah, it's not easy. No, no. I mean,
Yeah.
no publisher
Yeah.
wants to hear like with LLP. Okay, which is unique in itself, is it's going to
Mm.
take me an hour sometimes just to write a paragraph. No publisher
Mm.
wants to hear that. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
want
yeah, yeah.
products out. They want products out left and right. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
unique in that it helps alleviate the cons in poetry. In other words, that whole rhyme. I'm not saying it doesn't rhyme, but I would more for flow. So
Mhm.
um, I'd say so every sentence flows into the other sentence. And I made
Oh.
sure that there's a rhyming word between the periods. Okay, which
Mm.
makes for a unique writing style. And as long as you keep the context, the reader understands what you're talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of
Wow.
feedback I get about it is people will read it and then they're unintentionally, when they're speaking, keep rhyming. Unintentionally, like it gets into their head, and they're like, and I've done it myself too, where like I'll have an intense session of writing it, LLP, and
Uh-huh.
I'll go talk on the phone, and like my friend Maddie said once, like, "Wait, are you rhyming?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am rhyming. I didn't mean to do that." Yeah, yeah. It's like
That's pretty cool.
unintentional rap artist, Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's I like that. I like that. So, you sit and you think about the process. So that's pretty cool. You gave a little bit of an insight on that. When you first started with the idea of wanting to, like, where you said you worked out in the gym since you were 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, did you always have an affinity to write, or did that come along later?
Well, I have high standards. Okay. And
Hmm.
that's come from working out is, to shape and mold my body, in bodybuilding to, peak perfection. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have
Yeah.
to have higher standards. And I bring that into other things in my life. So I do love writing, but I'm like, I will read things sometimes that writers put out. And I'm like, well, you could have done better. And I'm thinking that in my mind, you
Mm.
could have done better,
Yeah. Yeah.
and or you could have rhymed it better. Same thing with songs, and I'm starting to slowly integrate LLP into songwriting, which you heard a
Hmm.
little bit of, and it is the the oomph it gives to a song is dramatic, and I'm really happy with the results, and it's pushing the art even further, you know. And I think people are going to really appreciate it once they understand it that it's art. Okay, don't
Yeah.
approach it as I'm going to read an album, I'm going to read a book. This is art. This is watching someone, you know, like Bob Ross, sitting there and watching him pick happy little trees. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. I like it. Hey, so as a veteran in the U.S. Air Force, how has your military background shaped your perspective on the journey of a hero? And how does that influence your storytelling?
Well, I do take from my military experience, and I do base my characters around them a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So there's a little bit of people I've worked around in the story. Like you always have that one person that showed up, and you're like, "What is this
Mm.
guy's deal?" You know. But later on, you saw he was indispensable. Like, oh, now I
Mm.
get it. This person is a valuable member of the team. You know, this
Yeah.
person, we need him. You know,
Yeah.
there's always those people you who always, shall we say, show up late, drink a little too much, and get everyone else
Mm-hmm.
in trouble. You know, there's always those people. So I did emulate the people with characters like that from my military into the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How was your experience in the military?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it shaped me into the person I am today. You know, but
Okay.
I would say to veterans that don't let it break you, because I mean I've
Mm.
been diagnosed the VA with PTSD from incidents in Afghanistan and Iraq, but don't let it break you. Okay, you're
Mm-hmm.
stronger than you think you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So when did you go to Iraq? I apologize. My eye is really bothering me. And the only reason why I ask, the only reason why I ask is because I just want to see that I run into you by chance because you were in the Marines, right? Or the Air Force?
Air Force. Yeah.
You're in the Air Force. Okay, so you would have
Mhm.
came after. So when I was in Iraq, and you said you worked on fixing planes.
Fighter jets. Yeah.
Okay, so I wouldn't have ran into you. But when I
Hmm.
was in Iraq, I remember I got hurt. And I was in a field hospital that was run by the Air Force. And the physician that I had, oh my God, or whatever, whoever, I don't know the correct term. It wasn't really the physician, it's the people who attend to you, your bedtime person or,
Hmm.
or your bedside person. Oh, he was something else. He was hard on me. But, like you said, you look back in hindsight and I'm like, okay, well, he was really getting me to reshape
Yeah.
my mindset
Yeah.
at the time, get
Hmm.
out of this. I'm a victim and get back into the fight. So, yeah. So anyway,
Well,
I'm
if
sure
you
I didn't
look
run
at
into
it
you.
as levels of consciousness, okay,
Yeah.
there's depression which most people are in that situation. They're in depression, but anger is above it. So if the least you could do is but make them angry because he probably pissed you off,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
got you to a higher level of consciousness, did he not?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
helping you out, even though you didn't realize it until in hindsight. Yes.
Yeah. I love it. All right. How was you got PTSD? Like, did
Yes.
you experience something while you were there, that kind
Well,
of triggered
one
it
of
or just
the one of the issues was when I was in Afghanistan. Okay, I did a lot of walking. I
yeah.
was in a small little air base, high in the mountains and about 75 miles from the border of Iran. Okay, so it
Mhm.
was a hot and heavy situation, and there was we weren't as protected as we would like to have thought. If I had started walking that day, like a minute or two sooner, I would have been hit by a mortar,
Mm.
like because it hit right in the path. And then
Mhm.
that, and
Mhm.
then that really bothered me. Like at first, you're like, okay, I'm good, nothing's wrong with me. But
Yeah.
it's not till after the fact that you start processing it, and it's like, okay, wow, I could have died. I could have seriously been
Yeah.
dead. Yeah. And you start thinking about
Yeah.
your children, your relationships, and what's really important in life. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you that was, not I felt okay, because I guess I shift my mind really well over when I was in Iraq or any place, Bosnia, wherever we were at. But what happens, you really do find those periods where you're thinking about your family. If you're married and you have kids or just your
Hmm.
family, if it's your
Hmm.
parents or whatever. And I remember we had to go from one part of Iraq to another, and it was just one place. I can't remember if it was called Killer's Alley or something alley, but it was where they had all these IEDs and things. And they had
A friendly
just
area, it sounds like.
yeah, and they and they just opened it up. And they were like, "Okay, we're heading out." So it's like we had it was like a 300-mile drive where we had to go in the middle of the summer in Iraq. And we had a lot of different things happen in there, but while you're riding and while you're thinking about stuff, it does weigh on you. But then you shift back, right? Because they train you focus on the mission. So, did you have any experiences? And you talked a little bit about that. You could have gotten hit. We had that experience where we had a mortar round that hit a warehouse that we had just been living in. You know what I'm saying? And it hit like after we left. I don't know if people were in there after us, so if we lost some lives at that day or not, because I kind of focused on, oh my gosh, we were just there, sort of to your point, right? Did you have any other experiences like just revelations while you were there? Because not only do you get the negatives, but you get the positives too. You
Mhm.
get the positive experiences from being in those type of situations. So I guess let me sum this question up really quick. What positive messages, learnings, experiences did you have while you were deployed? And any one positive experience that you can think of right off the top of your head.
Well, I will say this. I was in a tense situation while I was over there, very
Mm-hmm.
active. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
some horrors that changed me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
after now I made the transition from active duty to reserves and then did the rest of my time in the reserves. And then I
Mm-hmm.
went into contracting and I went back as a contractor. And I with the intention to make a difference in the positive way. So I was mentoring about 40 young men, to do my job, in their Air Force, the Iraq Air Force. And I had to teach them. And every day I always tried to impart a little bit of wisdom, common
Mm-hmm.
sense, gratitude, and let them know that things that we're doing aren't right. And then explain to
Mm.
them why. Yes, because a
Yeah.
lot of them didn't have fathers or they didn't know their mothers or, the
Mm-hmm.
situation was a lot worse. I'd say over 2/3 of them had messed up families, so I tried to be in a way, I was a surrogate father. So that was my way of making a difference by going back and trying to change lives for positive.
That's awesome. I had an experience. We were in Iraq in the castles or whatever, Saddam's castles. And we were there, I can't remember doing whatever we were doing. And there were some workers, some Iraqi workers that were out there. And we're there and we're in our uniforms and our weapons and all that. And you could see them, just two guys, and they were looking at us, kind of mean mugging us and everything, just having an attitude. And so from that perspective, they're looking at us as the enemy. We're looking at them as, workers or whatever, the enemy. And and that's what you see. But there was a moment, the guy that I was with, my battle buddy, he had a video camera. And it was new because this is back in the day, right? So it looks like a camera, but it did video and all that stuff. And so he was videoing everything. And they were mean mugging us or whatever, but they were able to come a little closer to us. And so what he did was he showed them the video because they had never seen it. So he showed them, I'm recording video, and they smiled. And the whole dynamic changed because now we
Yes.
seeing each other as humans. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And just you don't always get experiences like that, right?
No, no,
And I
no.
don't want people to be put in those situations. To be put in situations like that, war, where you have to have those, or you have those experiences. But stay open. Bottom line is, there's always ways to find positive experiences, ways to expand your view of what reality is, and to just grow. So that's my message to everyone who's listening. And thank you, Peter, for letting me share that with you. Now we want to jump into something that probably wasn't a good experience for you. You survived a near-death experience,
Mhm.
and that had a profound impact on your life. How did this experience shape your creative process and your approach to writing the Amazons? And then tell us a little bit about the incident as well.
Well, let me first say, as a caveat, this was the late 70s, early 80s. So
Mhm.
parenting was different. My parents were good parents. They weren't neglectful.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, parents watch their children a lot closer to nowadays. Okay. But
Yeah.
to be a latchkey kid back then was perfectly normal and not frowned upon. Okay.
Mhm.
I was on my own, it was a weekend and, um, I was about 6 or 7. And when you're that young, you don't realize the signs, symptoms of heat stroke coming on. Okay. Long story short, I passed out in the sun. My body started going into shock. No one knew where I was. Okay. Or that was happening to me.
Mhm.
And then that's where I remember floating over my body. And I would say it was, if you think of a black and white picture of yourself, okay, but reverse the colors so then your body is white. That's what I looked like. I was outlined by white. I could see clearly through myself.
Yeah.
I remember then going up into a tunnel with a light at the end. Like everybody says, it was, you know, the same. It was a tunnel. And when I got up there, I went through the past life experiences where they show you progressions and go back through your life, but being it went fast. It was very fast,
Yeah. Mhm.
especially me being so young. There wasn't really anything I had done. And I remember kneeling uh, on my right knee and then looking up, and there were two light beings I perceived as angels.
Mhm.
One was welcoming, okay, and saying, "Okay, come, it's your time," but the other one was upset. And he said, "Your job isn't done. You have to go back." And that's when I woke up back in my body with the paramedic over me. And I'm like, what the hell happened?
Mm.
And that always haunted me my entire life because I'm like, okay, what's my job? What am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It always bugged me. I'm like, wow, okay, do I have to make a difference in the world?
Wow. That is wow. That is an experience.
Yeah.
As I remember I'm from Maryland. I remember just going out and damn near freezing to death, because you go out and you play and you
Yes.
just
Yep.
play and play and play and you don't have any concept of what's going on, right? Until you get in the house, you're like, oh my,
Same thing with
so
that. Yes. Kids have no
yeah.
idea what frostbite is, so they won't recognize the symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So so that experience haunted you throughout,
Yes.
not really,
Yes.
it not really haunted you, but maybe it motivated you, it kind of troubled you because you felt you had to do something, you became a more of a, not, you didn't say perfectionist, but you went harder on
Well,
things
okay,
and
I
you
had the normal, like, now this is also normal psychic experiences are normal with NDE survivors, and that started to happen to me. Um,
yeah.
I started to see spirits. Okay, I
Mhm.
started to see
Mhm.
dead people, and
Mhm.
one of the strangest things is I started to see things before they happened.
Mm.
So I would see people from a 3-hour drive away come to visit. I told my mother, "Hey, so and so's coming," and she looks at me like crazy, like, "No, she's not. No, she's not." And then all of a sudden she shows up at the front door. And just things like
Yeah.
that, seeing my mother break her ankle before, telling her about it before it
Mm.
happened. Um, it did freak her out a bit. It did freak her out a bit. And it kept going on until I hit puberty and then it sort of died down a little bit. But for the most part, I've always been an empath. So I could feel people's, how they're feeling on the inside when I walk up. Yeah.
Why do you think it died down a little bit once you hit puberty? If you had to just
I would say it has a lot to do with, and it's not just the Bible. It's written about in a lot of theology in ancient scriptures and stuff like that. The Up until the age of about 7, you're perfect. You can't commit sin.
Mhm.
Okay, but after that age, you can because then you know the between right and wrong.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
and that was about the age. I was a little prior to it. That once it hit, I hit puberty, that it kicked in, and then the the psychic experiences died down a lot. Yeah. My connection, I
Okay.
would say my connection died down. Let's say that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I was just curious because, I have conversations about just losing yourself,
Mhm,
you know, just
mhm.
just because of, right, all of the different things that we experience, things that we're doing, and we kind of move away from that energy, from that connection that we have with, our spirituality, Earth, whatever it is. And I was just wondering if you thought, conceptually that may be what happened or why you kind of moved away, or you thought it was just because
Well,
of
I
your
would say
age.
I have never moved away. I'm a firm believer in God and spirituality. I pray every day, and
Yeah.
uh, it's never gone away. It's just taken a different form. Okay,
Yeah.
it's allowed
I
me to
got you.
live a somewhat normal life, but still be connected. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. All right. Got it. Thank you. Hey, so the concept of synergy between the feminine and masculine plays a pivotal role in your work. And can you explain how this balance is portrayed in your stories and why it's important to highlight both? Before you get to that, keep that in mind because it's a pretty straightforward question. Did you write anything else before you did the project that you're working on now?
I've always been a little bit of a writer, but I always kept everything to myself.
Hmm.
I wrote your obligatory love poetry and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
but it was more or less a warm up to what I'm doing right now, because what I'm
I
doing
love
right
it.
now is more bigger scale. It's much more epic, and it's going to get a lot more media attention. Yeah.
I love it. All right, so now let's talk about the feminine and masculine roles and how they synergetically coexist in your writings.
Well, first off, I would say, I mean, you take a look at modern media right now. There's
Hmm.
a lot of people out there that are women bashers. They hate women, and there's podcasts and YouTube channels just on the subject. But then vice versa, there are people that they're men haters. Like, yeah, and it's like left and right. They're fighting. They're fighting. They're left and right. And I'm like, you need to stop. We need to stop that. Okay, we need to come
Yeah.
together. Like I said, in a synergy, realize that we need
Hmm.
each other, love and respect each other, and that's why it was critical, at least for me, to integrate it into the book between the brother and sister relationship. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. I love it. I think, I don't think, I know because of marketing tactics and things like that, we pay attention to norms, perceived norms in
Mhm.
society. And, obviously we've gotten away from 40s, 50s, 60s where women in the kitchen, doing stuff, men out doing whatever, right? Because it's
Mhm.
always whatever.
Thank God. Yeah.
And now it's more of an active or a strategic or a conscious effort to really highlight that, hey, look, everyone contributes,
Yes. Yeah.
in every facet of
Mhm.
life. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So when you write about the Amazons, because that's kind of, help me out here. When you write about it, I know what I think about the Amazons, right? When you write about them, are there, like, how do I want to ask this question? Are there men there? Is it like these powerful, strong willed, working, protector, nurturer women, meaning they have all the whole societal concepts of what masculine and feminine are in one gender? Do they experience other men? Do they, how does that interaction look? How do you consciously think about those interactions? Like, how does that work for you when you're creating these stories?
Well, the Amazons as a whole or a group would look at men as slaves. They're only there for
Yeah.
procreation. Okay.
Okay.
Until they can prove themselves in a woman's eyes or in the Amazon's eyes as something more than just a slave, something that's enlightened,
Mm.
something that can help and contribute to their society as a positive way. Okay. And I think
Yeah.
us as men too, as well, need to grow up and start to positively contribute to society.
Yeah.
So many of us, or I should say, boys, want to sit in their basement and play video games, but they're not taking active roles in society as a whole. Society, it's necessitated that they don the mantle of responsibility, and do something. Even if it's a trade, like a job, at least they're contributing to society. The guys that
Mhm.
go in the military, someone has to do it. Okay, and that's even more so then because you're contributing because someone has to do it and be in the military and fulfill that role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell you what, the other thing I was thinking about the Amazons is it really took society and flipped it upside down,
Yeah,
right?
it did. And that's why I
Because
did it.
because Yeah, exactly. Because honestly, I mean, you don't say, "Hey, woman, you're a slave," but the way they were treated, it's almost the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And so the Amazon story, I guess, kind of took it to the extreme level of mentality and just put it on its face and say, "This
Well,
is
if
actually."
to read it as a man, you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah,
I'm no longer dominant anymore. Yeah.
yeah,
So then
yeah,
all my other attributes then as a man or as a person, as a human being will then come into play because my
yeah.
strength doesn't matter anymore. My role got switched. So
Hmm.
if I'm not a good person, yeah, I don't stand a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. As someone who blends poetry, fantasy, and comic art in your work, how do you envision these genres coming together in the Amazons to create a unique experience for the readers?
Well, if you walk in the bookstore and just look
Hmm.
at the mega section, it is usually the biggest area, and so is the comics.
Hmm.
Graphic novels. By integrating that along into poetry, along into comics, that book could stand in any of the sections in the library or the bookstores. So I want to say it's triple genre. Okay,
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
it could it could hold its own in any of those areas.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. I grew up with comic books, so I love comic books, and then graphic novels started coming out, and I was like, "Wow, this is kind of crazy." And then for me, I was so happy that technology caught up. We talked about technology a little bit earlier. I was so happy that technology caught up and they were able to bring these to the big screen in movies and stuff like that.
Oh
Do you
yeah,
have a
definitely.
vision?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a vision for bringing your creativity to the big screen?
I am in talks right now with a production company that will be undisclosed right now. We are discussing bringing the Amazons to the big screen right now.
I
Nothing's come
like
from
it.
it yet, but it is actively in work. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good, good, good. All right, so transitioning from a military career into creative writing seems like it doesn't really seem like a big leap, but I'll say a big leap. We do a lot of writing prior to whatever popular. Good Lord, why am I fumbling today, Peter Gunn? Put those guns away. So no, but you know what I'm saying. It's not really. We
Yeah.
do a
Yeah.
lot of writing. We do a lot of thinking. We do. It's not just going out running and shooting up stuff.
Mhm.
But what advice do you have for others in similar transitions, especially those who may be moving from service into civilian careers, like sort of a transition type bit of advice to our battle buddies?
Well, I've noticed one thing that people don't realize is once you leave, you
Hmm.
have their DD 214 and you're stepping out. Your buddies that you have in the military might go away. If you're going to continue on in the entrepreneurship or with the rest of your life, you can't necessarily take them with you.
Yeah.
When you're in service, it's fine. You all show up at the same place every day. That's great. And I'm saying don't have friends, but if you want to progress as a human being, as an entrepreneur, okay, be willing to let them go if they're not contributing. And you have to
Mm,
make hard decisions, especially as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
yeah. That's a good one. That's straight to the point. That's straight to the point. Military is designed to have teams, small units, larger units, right, to
Mhm.
accomplish missions. You become an entrepreneur, you're the guy, you're the gal,
It's
right? And
especially, like the shared trauma that we
hmm
get exposed to that really makes us tight,
yeah,
because we all went through the same stuff together. But just be aware, these people aren't necessarily going to help you on the outside in your new world of the new transition. Yeah.
mm, that's a good point. All right, let's get back to the Amazons. All right, you wrote it in your signature length lyrical poetry style. Can you share with us in detail, specifically, you don't have to get into detail, specifically what that style entails and how it offers a fresh experience to the readers? You talked about it earlier, you said how it rhymes and you studied and all this, but tell me exactly what it is. Let's emphasize it. So if they missed it earlier, they know exactly what to expect from that style of writing.
Well, if you want to start writing in that style,
Hmm.
you're going to have to start learning writing words. You could have like, I think there's like rhymezone.com, and it helps a lot. But from each period of the sentence, from the end of the sentence to the beginning of the sentence, you want to have a rhyming word. So the end it must rhyme with beginning, and then continue on
Wow.
to the entire paragraph. Okay, so then when that
Hmm.
next sentence ends, there must be a word that word must rhyme with the next one, and so on and so forth. Now there's deviations. Okay, it's not perfect, but it involves number one keeping the context in mind. So if
Hmm.
that rhyming word make is nonsense, you can't use it. So you're going to have to develop your skills of the English language, and then also um, be willing then to backtrack, because sometimes you get stuck and like, well, wait a minute, there's no word in existence that I could use. So
Hmm.
then you
Hmm.
might have to throw away what you already wrote and start over again, and
Wow.
be willing to take one for the team, so to speak, and start over. But also, what nice thing with like linked lyrical poetry is sometimes the words write the paragraph. So sometimes it's just the key words will start writing themselves, and then it
Mm.
allows you to go faster. But it's
Yeah.
extremely time consuming. You're going to have to. You're not going to sit here and write it in 3 months or 6 months. To write a novel of any length, you're going to at least take a year. Yeah.
Mm. All right. Do you have a book nearby? Do you have a copy of your book nearby?
Yeah, I could bring one up.
I don't know if anybody's ever asked you this. I apologize if I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you could just read a verse or two, or a couple lines, so we can get an idea of how it sounds. A good one.
Well, I'll read the beginning. How about that?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. See here. We have all seen ladies gently take their beau's hand and understand their place in society. But why do they allow themselves to be tamed when their heart is being eaten away with desire? Perhaps they have an internal fire to break away from what society requires. What mired, very far away, was a place where women ruled the land and men exclusively for breeding. Needing no other help from humans, their hidden institutions were excluded from modern times. Aligned on their own path, these Amazons were allowed to cast their own unique civilization, a nation created by the women fated by the gods of old, with bold spirit and
Mm,
inherent strength, tenfold from the standard human mold.
yeah, I got you. Yeah, that sounds like that could be challenging. I mean, reading it, you did great, but writing it, I can imagine it takes a little bit of time. Do you ever
Yeah,
get into that writer's flow though, where you just start?
yes,
You
that's
said
the
some of the
only
times it
way.
writes itself.
That's the only way that I
Yeah,
could be really productive is, I'll get everything done in the morning, so I have nothing on my plate to do, and I'll get into my flow state and I'll start writing. Yeah.
yeah. Looking back on your journey, NDE, military, heat stroke, Amazons, what's one lesson that you wish you could share with your younger self about the power of storytelling and finding your voice?
Don't be afraid to start. Start sooner if you can. You might have an idea, and I always say that to people that I talk to when I do speaking engagements is there's no such thing as stupid idea. There might be a grain of genius in that idea because something made you say it, but you're like, oh, that's stupid. Don't
Mm,
dismiss it. Is there something there that, like, wait a minute, that's a good idea. Something made you think it. Something made you say it. Yeah.
yeah. I tell you what, that's a great lesson. I kind of learned that in the military, you know, um, because a lot of times you have your ego. You don't know you have your ego when you're young, but you
Hmm.
have your ego, and you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want someone to say that was a dumb question, kids laughing or whatever the case. So I just hold it in, right? I was kind of shy when I was young, but in the military, they kind of like, to your point, this question, it came to you for a reason. Like, if nothing else, you didn't understand what the person just told you,
Yeah. Yeah.
if nothing else.
Hmm.
So you need clarity. And that's everything in the military. Like, if you're going on missions, you need to know what the mission is
Hmm.
from the highest to the lowest level, right? Whatever your perspective role is in that mission, you need to understand it. And so every question is important, you know. So that is a great lesson. I don't know how many times I've sat and I've thought, because I still fight with that. right? I'm still who I am. So I still think, oh my gosh, this is a dumb question. They're gonna laugh. They're gonna like all of that stuff still plays in my head. But I ask it anyway because I know that I have
Mhm.
to. And you just don't know how many times I've asked a question thinking it's a dumb question. And they're like, oh wow, no one's ever asked me that question. That's a great question. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's weird like that because 50% of the people in the room may be thinking the same thing, but no
Mhm.
one to say it.
No one
So
has the courage
I
to step up and say it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a great bit of advice for your young self and for anyone who's listening who's scared to ask the question. There is no dumb question. And it just isn't, right? If you don't know, you don't know.
Mhm.
So there it is.
Exactly.
All right. Hey Peter, I asked you a few questions. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with the listeners about
Well,
your
I'm
journey?
currently working on a graphic novel as well, that will be
Mhm.
coming out, hopefully, knock on wood, in July.
Oh wow. Okay. Good. 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 How far along are you in that?
I'm about page 117 of 150. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
an entire
Yeah.
team of artists helping me to complete it too.
That's
So yeah,
that's the thing. That's the thing.
yeah.
So you don't draw at all.
I would say no. I would say I by the time it's done, I have probably done about 25% of the art in the book on my own.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I used to have some sort of artistic drawing or I never knew how to paint, but I could draw, I could color it in and stuff like that. But I kind of got away from it. Like it's still there, kind of like you're, you know what I'm saying? But I don't do it as much as I should. Um, in your situation right now, you got projects, you got due dates, you got goals, you got timelines, all of this stuff of different things. So it makes sense to outsource. But do
Mhm.
you ever take a moment or think or have a private project that you're working on where you just want to do it 100% yourself? Do you have time to even consider doing something like that?
Well, I've made a team on my own. Like you go out and search for people I need, and you'll see if they fit in my team. And anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur is going
Mhm.
to have a team if they want to be successful. You're not going to be able to do everything on your own.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
but with LLP, I'm the only one that can do it. I've even seen if AI could do it, it's incapable of doing it. It doesn't
Yeah.
understand the concept because there's too much creativity involved in it, so it doesn't understand it. So as soon as
Yeah.
there's no rhyme scheme, it stops because it doesn't understand.
So what other things do you do? Like I'm kind of a creative. I do photography. I do stuff like
Mhm.
that to fill that desire, that need. Are there any other
Well, I
things that
felt
you do?
bodybuilding, in its of itself to shape and mold the human body, as if it were a
Yeah.
piece of clay. It always helps. It fulfills me creatively, and
Hmm.
that's why I always go to the gym just about every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said, did you compete in those?
When I
Have you
was
ever
younger,
competed?
when I was much
Yeah.
younger, I competed. Yes, yes. It was a lot of fun. It was a learning experience too. Yeah.
I was about to say, how was that process?
Well, you will learn discipline. You will learn
Hmm.
discipline if you're going to do it, especially dietary discipline, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's where you need to, set values and priorities, especially if you're going to do it when you're younger. Uh, it's good to have priorities. And if these people aren't helping you on your process, so your diet, your workout
Yeah.
routine,
Yeah.
and your friends are like, hey, let's go drinking. Those aren't your friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it. Hey, what did you take yourself back? Hindsight the podcast. Take yourself back. Try to get in this moment best you can. It is hindsight, so you can look back. You probably didn't realize it back then, but what did you learn about yourself? Like who you were back then while you were in the process of maybe training for a competition?
I learned that I'm capable of more than I give myself credit for.
Yeah.
When I look back, and that's one of the key factors to know if you're making progress in life is look back at yourself 1 year ago or 5 years ago. If that person you don't recognize that person, like who is that? You're on the right path, and that's one of the key
Mm.
ways to know that you're on the right path is if you don't recognize who you used to be.
Mm. That is one. I like it. That is a KPI to track about
Yes,
yourself.
definitely. Especially if you look back at that person with disdain, like I can't believe I
Yeah.
did that, or I was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think that you got to kind of know who you are, to a point, um, in order to kind of plot your perfect path or your trajectory to your future self. And so right now I'm in the process of writing a book about figuring out who you are.
Mhm.
Because to your point, if you look back, you can do it that way, which is great. You look back and be like, I don't even recognize that person. There is growth, right? But in that growth, in that change, like you can have purposeful coordinates and a trajectory and a goal, that you're aspiring to get to. But if you have no idea where you are and who you are, then it's kind of difficult to get a good, you know, plotting point to where you're trying to go because you have no idea who you are. And I know it's kind of complex, but I think about it where, say, simply, I want to be able to do 100 push-ups, right? All in one sitting. Well, how many push-ups can you do? In your mind, to say, well, I can probably do about 30. This is to your point earlier. But honestly, if you get down and you do it and you focus on it and you figure out who you are and what you're about, you're like, oh, I can actually do about 38 to 43 if I really get down and do it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? If I
Yeah.
really get down and write this book in LLP, if I really get down and, you know, push those weights, I can probably do more, but I don't know what I can do because your mind limits you. So my point to all of this is figure out who you are. Don't let your brain tell you who you are. Actually investigate. Get to know yourself. Get back in tune with yourself, right? To figure out who it is that you are. And then I love the fact that you you still are haunted. And I hate to use the word haunted, but you know that you have a higher purpose.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
no, I'm depressed. You need to go back. You need to
Mhm.
go back because you got things to do. And
Mhm.
then you're like, that is a blessing, right? Because you're conscious about it. Most of us aren't
Yes.
conscious about that. We
I
just
know.
do
I know.
things. You know what I mean? So do you feel, this is my last question for you. Do you feel that you're living up? Not that you've accomplished, not that you're there, but do you feel that you're living up to that responsibility of doing more, with your life?
I'm internally motivated, and a lot of people
Mhm.
don't understand that. If you were to place me against your normal average person, I would look like an oddity. Okay. I
Mhm,
keep
mhm,
odd
mhm.
hours. Okay. I usually like go to bed at 5 p.m., wake up at 11 p.m., go to the gym, have very disciplined diet, very disciplined workout. Okay. And schedule. And I will do it consistently over and over and constantly improving myself. I try to improve myself every day. If you looked at me against the average person, I would look like an oddity. And I know
Mhm.
that I'm like that. I'm aware of it, but I'm not going to stop because I have that drive to fulfill, so we say, what the angel wanted me to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, those odd hours. The only time I had those odd hours like that was when I was in Bosnia, and we used to stay up. Well, we used to just kind of do what you said, take a nap a little bit. I say take a nap. You said go to sleep, and we get up at like midnight, and then we go to the gym and just kick butt in the gym, work out. Mainly because there wasn't too many people there, right? Mainly because there was really
Yeah,
nobody in
well,
there. So
even in the States, it's the best time to go. If you have like 24-hour fitness, you could go anytime. That's the best place time to go because no one's there. You have the gym to yourself.
have it to yourself. Oh
Yeah.
wow. All right. Okay. This has been great. This has been great. I really appreciate it. Hey, Pete, how can, I'm sorry, Peter. I'm getting real comfortable. How can the listeners connect with you, learn more about your work, and dive deeper into the Amazons?
You can download my book on Kindle. Just search Peter Gunn, The Amazons. Also go to my website, www.petergunn.net. To look at any projects I have coming up, you can download the book from there as well.
All right. Hey, Peter, thank you for joining me here today and sharing your insights into the Amazons and your personal journey. I really appreciate it knowing that you are the oddity. I'm going to call you the oddity. What's your
I
nickname?
appreciate
What's your
that.
nickname? What's your
Thanks, Link.
nickname, though, Peter? What's your
In the
nickname?
military, everyone called me Johnny Bravo because of the hair.
Because of the hair, I was gonna say
Yes,
it.
yes.
That's
For
pretty
20
cool. That's
years,
pretty
I
cool.
had that nickname.
Oh. Oh wow! So what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try to find a photo of Johnny Bravo and make sure I put it in this video clip.
Okay.
So in our comparison, but look, we've explored how challenging traditional narratives can create space for a new generation of heroes, and the importance of balancing both masculine and feminine in storytelling. And also for our listeners, look, be sure to check out the Amazons and follow Peter on his journey. Don't forget to subscribe to Hindsight the podcast as well for more inspiring episodes. And until next time, keep striving to be more. Keep striving to be the oddity. Just be you. That's the message. Be you. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Right.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight the podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And while I have you here, why don't you take your mouse, go over and click on that subscribe button. No, not right there. Over to the right. No, down, right there. Boom. Thank you. Now, thank you for subscribing to Hindsight the podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones.